Hi, welcome to episode 523 of The Corner of Knit and Tea. My name is Laura. I'm also known as Fluffy Kira on Instagram and over at Blue Sky. I blog over at thecornerofknitandtea.com, which is where this episode's show notes and every episode's show notes will be. I also have an Etsy shop called The Corner of Knit and Tea where I sell my handspun yarns and knitting patterns. Hi, how are you? It is a day late. I am coming to you on Tuesday, May 27th, and that is because yesterday was a holiday and we actually went out of town this weekend. We went over to Lexington, Kentucky, where my husband rode a series of 3 bike rides called the Horsey 100. The main ride is on Saturday. It's 100 miles in Kentucky. And then there was a small ride on Friday, just sort of a warm-up ride, as it were. And then on Sunday, they did a 75-mile bike ride. Excuse me. Sort of finishing up the weekend. So I think his total mileage was about 225 miles. He loved it. He was exhausted. And so we drove out there last Thursday and we drove back yesterday and we got home about 5:30 in the afternoon. And I did a little bit of laundry and we had some dinner and he went to bed about 8 o'clock because he was so tired. And so that was our weekend. So while he was bike riding, I did a little, I tried to do a little bit of touristy things, and I do have a little bit of yarn to share with you. I found a yarn store. I actually went in search of a quilt store, and sadly, it had closed just a few weeks before and moved to online only. I was really sad about that because a couple years ago, we drove through Kentucky, I think on the way to my niece's wedding 2 years ago. And I had noticed that there was a cute little quilt shop there, and I had always meant to go back. It's on so we stayed in Lexington, but the ride itself is in Georgetown, which is about 20 minutes north of Lexington. And Georgetown is a cute little town, and it had this really cute main street with an ice cream shop and a quilt shop and like a whole bunch of things. And I had noticed the quilt shop then, but we were there, I think we were just passing through, and it was an evening, and so it wasn't open. And I was like, one day I'm going to go back to the quilt shop. So I went to go back to the quilt shop, and unfortunately, as I walked up, there were like boxes in the store, and it looked like the store had mostly been ripped apart. And there was a sign on the door that said, "Thank you for supporting us in this location. We're now online only." And I was like, oh, direct. So I didn't buy any fabric, but that's okay because I bought some yarn. Anyway, I hope that you are doing well. I am coming to you from just outside of Kansas City. We live on the Kansas side, and it is a dreary day. We are having sort of a delayed spring. It's actually really surprising because it's almost June, and it is pretty cool here. It's been in the 50s and 60s, at least over this past weekend, and rainy. It's supposed to warm up later in the week, but it is still super overcast today. I don't know if it's going to rain more. And so that is where I'm at, but it does make knitting a lot more fun, although my attention, I can feel it drifting towards summer tops. I have a few projects that I would love to finish, and I think I've made peace with myself that they're not going to get finished this week. I had hoped to finish them by the end of May, but I think maybe they'll get finished. They'll definitely get finished before I leave on vacation again at the end of June, and so I'm just going to kind of work my way through them. So the tea today, I am drinking Republic of Tea's peach tea. It is lovely, and I'm actually having it hot. I had thought about switching to iced tea, but since it is chilly today and a little bit cool in the house, it's still like 64 degrees in the house, so it's a little chilly. So I am having hot tea in my alpaca mug from, I think it's Greenfield Potter. Let me see, Green Ridge Pottery, and I bought this years ago at Maryland Sheep and Wool, which was just recently, yeah, I bought this mug the year Roxy was born, so it's going to be 12. So, let me see, she's going to be 12, so I bought it the year after she was born, so it's going to be 11. So I didn't get as much done as I wanted to, but I did get a lot of knitting done this weekend. So we drove out to Kentucky, which from us is about 9 hours, and about 5.5 hours in, we end up in southern Illinois, which is actually where both my mother-in-law and father-in-law are from. And so actually both ways, we stopped and had a meal with family. On the way out, we had lunch with them. On the way back, actually, we left Kentucky early in the morning. And so we got into We left at 6 in the morning, but Kentucky, where we were in Kentucky was on Eastern time, so it was an hour ahead of our normal Midwestern Central time. And so we pulled into Illinois. It was about 4 hours, and we pulled into Illinois at 9:30 in the morning. So we met everyone for brunch. But so that was nice because it helped break up the drive a little bit. But I had 9 hours each way. Plus then we had 3 days in Kentucky. On Friday, my husband rode and I actually worked most of the day, so I didn't do much knitting. Saturday, I dropped him off and then went to pick him up later. And so I got to do a little touristy things. I found a really nice place to eat lunch. I went to a yarn shop. I'll show you that in a little bit. And then I was going to go to the quilt shop, but that didn't work. So I went and sat and waited for Wes. And it turned out he actually was a couple hours later than he thought he would be, because he was helping someone on the course who was kind of struggling, and so he rode a little bit slower. But I was prepared. I stopped and got a nice coffee, and then I brought my knitting with me. So I just sat and knit and listened to podcasts, and it was a beautiful day. The weather in Kentucky was, it wasn't rainy. We got really lucky. It didn't rain, but it was in the 60s and like just 70, and it was mostly overcast. So I just sat in the car for 2 or 3 hours, listened to podcasts and knit, and it was lovely. And so I did make some progress on my projects. So the first one is that I am knitting the Minecraft sweater for Miles, and I am excited because I think this one might be done by next week. And I think I have 2 things that I'd like to focus on, and I'll probably push the third out. But so I am really excited because I finished the sleeves on Miles' sweater, which means I am back to the body and I just have a few inches left on the body. So this is the Minecraft sweater. It is by a Norwegian designer who I never remember her name, but it is the material. The information is in the show notes. It is not a link because it links to Ravelry, which is the only place I have seen this pattern. But she is a Norwegian designer, and it is a top-down yoke sweater. The directions are a little bit Elizabeth Zimmerman, just a little bit sparse, but they have all the charts and everything looks great. And so I am very excited because the bulk of the sweater is done now. So this is the yoke, which we have talked about. And then I have one sleeve, which I was partway through the last time we chatted. And now I have the second sleeve as well. And actually, you know, it's interesting. It didn't do the mark. Remember last time I talked about this one and how it was a little bit of a mark, but it didn't do that here. So that's kind of interesting. I guess it was just where it was in the pot. Anyway, so sleeves are done. I am back to the body, and I have a few small balls of, I don't know where the other one went. It must have fallen. But I have 2 balls about this size, so probably about a skein left. And I still have a couple more inches on the body, and then, of course, the bottom ribbing. So I'm back to working on that. And I'm really pleased because the sweater is almost done. It still looks really big to me. And I have lots of ends to weave in, and then I am going to wash it and block it. And I'm really pleased about it. I will probably run it through the washing machine and dryer. And then if needed, I will steam it out just a little bit. As a note, the reason that I do that is because these sweaters are for my niece and nephew, and I try and make them easy care. They are knit in Malabrigo Rios for the most part, which is machine washable yarn. And it is also dryable. It doesn't felt, and so that is great. It is as advertised. I will say that it gets a little fuzzy and the color sometimes fades a little bit, as I've noticed from my niece and nephew's sweaters over the years, but they have worn really well considering that's the care that they're getting. And of course that's the care that they're getting because they are kids and they are running around and sweating and getting them messy, and I am trying to make this an easy process for my sister. Once they get a little bit older, I will probably give them the option to knit with Malabrigo is nice yarn. I'm not saying it's not nice yarn, but I will also give them the opportunity to hand care for their sweaters, and that will probably keep them in slightly better shape. So I will say that like washing and machine drying is not like 100% the ideal, but I will say that they wear pretty well for clothes that are washed and dried and knit in Malabrigo Rios, and I am pleased with it enough to continue to do it. So, yeah, so that is the Minecraft sweater, and I'm really, really pleased with it. I am knitting it in Malabrigo Rios in Pearl 10. That is this grayish black colorway. Pearl, which is the silver colorway, and then the green is actually a slightly different. It is Neighborhood Fiber Company Studio DK Organic. in the colorway Clintonville, and I believe they are closed right now for the year. I believe she was sort of regrouping and then was going to reopen. And I used a little bit of this on a sweater that I did a couple years ago for my nephew, and it seems to have worn well. So I don't know that her directions actually say you can machine wash and dry. But it does. I used it for some duplicate stitch on the other one, and so I think it will probably be okay. It is superwash merino. So that is where we're at, and I'm very pleased that that one is almost done. I bought some yarn this weekend for Roxy's sweater, which I will show you in just a few minutes. The yarn, not the sweater. I haven't started on the sweater yet. My goal was to finish this sweater before I left on vacation this summer, and then I will come home and do Roxy's when I get home, and then both will be ready for their fall birthdays. So the other thing that I worked on quite a bit this weekend is I worked on my chicken, and I showed you last week, I showed you the handspun yarn. It's now all balled up, but I showed you the 2-ply handspun yarn that I had finished spinning. This is Hello Yarn Corriedale in the colorway Enchilada Night. It was a dyed to order that she did a while ago, and I had a bag of seconds that I spun up, and it was about 8 ounces to start with, and I did several blocks. So I did this one. I love the way handspun knits up. It's just absolutely lovely. And I did this one. This one might be my favorite just in terms of the colors. And I did, there's one more, and I found another one of these in here. So there's another one of those. I didn't knit that on the trip though. And then, oh, I really liked this one too. So I knit this one. It's got a little bit more of the peach, but I really like this one. I still have more than half the ball to go. I would really like to finish this by Friday if I could, because I would like to take all of my chicken stuffs with me on Friday so that they can start to put together my chicken. If it has to get pushed out a week, it does. But I think this is going to be one of my focuses for this week, to see if I can finish it so that when I go up there next Friday, or this Friday, just a few days from now, I don't know if I can finish this. It might actually be the following week. So my plans for this week include finishing my sweater and as much of this ball of yarn as I can. I actually already have my next one cast on, and I might actually work on it in a meeting today. So I cast on and tried to knit another one last night, and as it turned out, I had knit enough yesterday in the car, and my wrist was kind of feeling a little bit sore, and so I did not want to push it. So I will keep that here and maybe use it this afternoon, because I'm on my lunch break right now. So that again is 3 to go with a lot of the stripies that I have knit, and then to go with the feathers. And I'm super excited that I'm getting really close to done. If not this week, then next week, and that will be super fabulous. So that is pretty much the knitting content. The other thing that I worked on, and I did work on it, I knit another 3 or 4, well, okay, the chart repeat is 24 rows, and I break it down usually 8 rows at a time. And so I knit another full repeat of the chart, and I started my last skein on the blanket, my last skein of the red. So, and I'm going through the red faster than I'm going through the black. So that is the Mosaic Stitch Blanket by Pearl Soho. And that is the other one that I was hoping to finish by the end of the month, but I don't think it's going to make it. And what I would like to do is finish the sweater first and finish my chicken, and then I will finish up the blanket. And I would like those 3 projects to be done when I leave for the summer, because those are either long-term projects or things that I will need in the fall. And then I am free to cast on a few other projects of my own device while I am on vacation, and I'm going to be vacationing a little bit during the summer. We are going to Scotland for a running trip, which we have done before. If you've been with me for a while, we've gone on several other running trips. So we're going to do that. And then my parents' 50th wedding anniversary is this summer, and so we are going to go away with them for a little bit, because they told me what they wanted for their 50th wedding anniversary was for all of us to go away somewhere. So we will be traveling quite a bit this summer, and I wanted to be sure that I wanted to prep for the fall, because I knew I was going to be gone most of the summer. And not most of the summer, but a couple weeks here, another week here. I have a couple work things coming up this summer. So there's lots going on, and I knew I was going to be really busy, and I wanted to kind of preload my spring schedule, and then have some time where I can just we will be traveling for both of the trips this summer. We will be traveling by air. And so space is at a premium, not like when I travel and can bring, I had a huge duffel bag of all my knitting projects with me this weekend. I just brought them all because I didn't know what I would want to knit on. So I am looking forward to taking some stuff for me. And actually, I have some yarn to show you that I think will probably be my next cast on for myself. So while I was in Kentucky, I went looking and there were several yarn stores, but the one that looked most interesting to me was one called Rebelle. And it is this it says Rebelle Reinventing Domesticity. Anyway, it was a lovely shop. And it was in Lexington. It was maybe about 1.5 miles from our hotel. And it was in an old house, which was really kind of charming because all of the different rooms of the house were different weights of yarn. So when you walked in, there was kind of the cash register and you were in like the bulky and chunky section. And then when you walked kind of through one of the doorways, behind it was like DK and sport weight and then all the stock yarn. And there was tons and tons of stock yarn and tons of brands I knew and even a few brands that I didn't know, which was super fun. And then I kind of went in a counterclockwise circle. So I came into the building and then I went through the first archway into, I don't know what rooms they would have been. I guess the front one was probably the living room. Maybe I went back to the dining room. I don't really know. And so that was kind of the sock yarn and DK. And then if I turned to the left again and went into maybe what was the kitchen, I don't even know. It was kind of baby yarn, easy care yarn, and then a whole wall of needles and notions. And then the final room was kind of the worsted section. And it was really funny because I had gone through the first 3 rooms and I was like, I haven't seen worsted yarn yet. How can they not have worsted yarn? And so I retraced my steps and went back. And then I saw that there was a 4th room that I had missed. And that room was actually the worsted room. They had mugs, they had bags, they had all kinds of things and all kinds of brands and yarns that I had seen before, yarns that I hadn't seen before. And it was a really, really lovely shop. And I didn't know that there wouldn't be a quilt shop later in the day, but I wasn't very restrained. So the thing that I did do is I went knowing what I wanted to buy for Roxy's sweater. And my plan was to buy a sweater quantity for Roxy's sweater. So I will say that was not an impulse purchase in the least, because I knew I needed to buy something for her. I hadn't made any decisions on pattern. I have, I don't remember what the pattern is called. I will, add it to the show notes when I'm done. It's a cute cardigan. She wanted a cardigan pattern, and it's got kind of a scalloped edge, which I thought was really kind of fun. It was knit kind of open front, but I'll probably do it as more of a closed. And I think the model in the one is wearing it as a short sleeve, but I will actually add full sleeves because my niece is in Chicago and it gets cold there. So I actually ended up, I'm going to be real boring. I ended up going with Malabrigo Rios. Excuse me. I ended up going with Malabrigo Rios for her sweater as well. As I said, I have 2 things. Well, I have a bunch of things. First of all, I want to knit for the kids in yarn that is easy care. I already talked about that. I do love the look of kettle dyed yarns. Kettle dyed and indie dyed yarn has kind of spoiled me for a lot of commercial yarns that look very flat to me. For instance, I used to knit with Cascade 220. I used to knit with a variety of workhorse yarns, Barocco. A lot of those yarns, they are fine yarns, but indie dyeing has just the depth of color and kind of the semi-solid colorways have just ruined me for commercial yarn because it looks flat to me now. I want to over dye it or add something. Anyway, I love Malabrigos, particularly Rios, because it is soft, it is super wash, it wears well, it is allowed to be machine washed and dried, and it comes in a billion colorways. And so I had it in the back of my mind that if I didn't find anything that I liked more, I was just going to go ahead and get Malabrigo Rios. And the store that I went to had Malabrigo Rios they had a whole wall of it. And so I got to look at all the colors I actually hadn't seen before. And so Roxy is a girl after my own heart. Her favorite color is teal, just like her mama and just like me. And, she may decide on something else, but she asked for teal. Last year, 2 years ago, I knit her a little Nadia cardigan. And I knit, that's a cardigan by Vanessa Smith. I had actually knit the pullover pattern for myself, and then she came out with a children's version, and I was a test knitter for the children's version, and knit Roxy a cardigan, and I knit it in teal feather, which is just a real pretty teal. And she wore that to, I don't want to say to death, because it's not dead. Like I said, it did fade a little bit, it shrunk a little bit, and the last time I saw it on her, the sleeves were like, oh dear. She was still wearing it, she wouldn't give it up, but the sleeves are short now, and so it looks a little silly because she has just sprouted up, and she's in that real awkward like pre-teen phase. She's going to be 12 this fall, and so she's like really tall and spindly and all knees and elbows, and it's really cute. I mean, I remember being that age, and I remember feeling awkward, and she's adorable, and but she's grown so much in 2 years that the sweater is just, I saw her like in the fall, so I guess maybe a year after I had knit it for her, and it was already too small. So this year I'm actually adding an extra inch onto both kids' sleeves, so hopefully they'll last a little longer. Anyway, that's a long-winded way of saying I had knit for her in teal feather, and so I was looking for other colors that had teal in them, and I almost wanted to go for purple. Because I'm into purple lately, and she has said she likes purple, but I asked her what color she wanted, and she said teal. So I ended up going with the Pines colorway, which to me looks very blue sprucey, and I don't know if this is penis or... I did not just say that. Okay, this is how it's spelled. Okay, penis. I don't know. This is, the colors are often Latin American names. And so I did not say what you think I said, but I said it. Anyway, this is the yarn. So it is like a dark tealy green, just super, super dark and green. And I really like it. And it reminds me of blue spruce. And so I bought 5 of these, which is 1,000 yards and enough to make her sweater. I might not need the whole 1,000 yards, but yeah. So I just love that. So then I was wandering around the shop and got distracted. This was what I came to buy. I bought a sweater quantity of that. Oh, and the other thing I should say is that, so Malabrigo Rios is what I would consider an, okay. I don't even know where to go with this. Malabrigo Rios is not a workhorse yarn. So back in the day when I was using Cascade 220, it was about $10 or $12. I don't know what the prices are now. I haven't bought Cascade in a while. Back in the day, it was about 10 or 12 US dollars for a skein of worsted weight that was about 200 yards. So to me, you could get a decent sized adult sweater for 1,000 yards, so about 50, 60 bucks. These days, indie yarn is very expensive, and prices have gone up over time. I am not arguing that it's not justified, but you know, when I want 1,000 yards of an indie dyed sweater yarn for me, sometimes that's going to be 5 skeins at $30 or $35 a skein. So to me, Malabrigo is somewhat in between there. The Rios cost me $17 a skein. So yes, that's still, let me think about this. It's still about $80, $80, $90 for a sweater that I'm making for a child. I understand. That may not be your price range. It happens to be mine, and so I do it, and the kids keep the sweaters, and they usually wear them a couple seasons, and I love them, and my sister keeps the sweaters, so the kids will have them later, if they want to use them for their own children or whatnot. So I go ahead and buy into that, but like what I'm trying to say is that at a certain level, it is a not completely ridiculous or uneconomic purchase. It also is not, yarn can be had for less, and I am not arguing against that. So that is what I did. Then I got a look around the store, and I found some really, really super fun sock yarn that was hand-dyed in Kentucky. And I do love buying souvenir sock yarn from places that, you know, indie dyers I may not have heard of. And these were some really, really fabulous yarns. These are from Deep Dyed Yarns, and this is her Good Juju sock base, which is 75% merino and 25% nylon. Okay, how fun are those? The purple and pink and blue, which is probably for Roxy, is it is called Multiplayer. So a good video game reference. And again, this is a 75-25 superwash merino nylon, 435 yards. So that is that one. And then this one I loved, and this one is called Beetlejuice. And it is kind of the same pink, purple, and the same blue, but then some neon orange and yellow and green. And I thought that would be super fun for Miles. And so my idea was, I bought these because I loved them, and I'm going to knit socks for each of the children, and then I'm going to stripe them together and knit crazy socks for myself. Because both kids, I used to be able to get socks for the children and myself out of one skein. My feet are small. I have size 6.5 feet, and then the children's feet were small, so I could usually get socks for both of us out of a single skein. I don't think I can do that anymore, but I do think that I can get 3 pairs of socks out of 2 skeins. So my thought is that I'm going to knit each of the children a pair of socks, and then I'm going to knit myself socks. And I like the colors enough, and I think they would be fun enough that I'm just going to stripe them together because they've both got black and blue and pink and purple, and I think they will be super, super fun. So I bought those. And then because I hadn't had enough fun, I was wandering around and saw a really, really pretty speckle yarn in a dyer that I had not seen before. And they were not dyed in Kentucky, but they were dyed in Wisconsin. And I decided that I was going to treat myself to 2 skeins of sock weight yarn to knit myself a summer tee. And this is the one that I think I'm probably going to take on vacation with me. I haven't picked a tee pattern yet, but usually I can get away with a nice summer tee at a slightly looser gauge and make that in 2 skeins of fingered weight. So these skeins are from Northwoods Fibers. And it is kind of a dusty and, well, it's not all dusty pink. It's dusty pink and a little bit of magenta, and then it's got all kinds of speckles in there, dark and orange and pink and light. And these are called Killing Me Softly, which is a great Carly Simon song and great version by Lauryn Hill too. Fugees? Not Lauryn Hill, Fugees. So, was Lauryn Hill in the Fugees? I'm dating myself here. Yeah, so this is going to grow up to be a summer top, and very soon you'll see me cast this on very soon. But I'm actually really excited because, so I went a little hog wild at the yarn shop. Totally willing to admit that. But everything that I bought at the yarn shop has a plan, and all of it is actually going to be knitted this year. So because these are the kids' Christmas socks, so I will work on these in the next few months. I may take these on vacation with me when I go. This is a top that I want to knit while I'm on vacation, and Roxy's is a sweater that will be knit before her birthday. So I am proud of myself in the sense that I am buying yarn with a purpose. And I am getting ready to work on that purpose and not just put it in stash forever. Yes, I do have stash yarn. Could I have totally skipped these? Could I have totally skipped the other 2? Yes, I could have. Would that have been as much fun? No. And actually, it's interesting because, so I bought yarn for Miles' sweater earlier this year, but otherwise, I want to say this might be pretty much the first yarn that I've bought this year. It is the only time in recent history I can think of that I have been in a yarn store and picking it out myself. So much of my yarn, and we have a lovely yarn store here, and I go up to it sometimes, but like a lot of my yarn shopping in the last couple years, like I bought for the blanket, I bought for the kids' sweaters, like a lot of that I just pick out online and go, and so I don't go to yarn stores enough, and I really, really need to. And you know what? I know why I didn't buy a lot of yarn this year, because I went to a spinning retreat in February, and then I went to a sewing retreat at the end of February, and I've been buying fabric. So I actually have not bought yarn this year until recently. So it was a lovely trip. I was sorry that I did not get to go to the quilting store, but I managed to keep myself occupied, and my plan is to use all of this yarn in the next few months to create beautiful things, and then I will go back to my stash. I have a couple summer tops, or a couple tops that I would like to cast on, and honestly, if I finish my works in progress before I leave on vacation and need to cast on something, I might actually cast on something new from my stash and then wait and take these special ones with me while I'm on vacation, and I can have as many WIPs going as I want. That's going to be the title of this episode. I can have as many WIPs as I want. Okay, I think I have wasted your time enough for not actually showing a ton of content. I hope you enjoyed my little chit chat today. I don't usually show off things that I buy, but I thought it was kind of fun. If you are ever in Lexington, Kentucky, please give Rebel Yarns a try. It was a beautiful, beautiful shop. And honestly, I could have bought twice as much as I did and found some amazing things. But I didn't. I was good. I tried to enforce a little bit of discipline, just a modicum. Anyway, I hope that you are doing well. I hope that the weather is lovely where you are. It is not here, but I'll take it. I hope that if you were in the US, you had a good weekend. It was Memorial Day here, which is a somewhat somber holiday. It is a time to remember those who have given their lives in service to this country. And so we did talk about that a little bit. My mother-in-law was talking about my husband's family is very, quite a few of the members of my husband's family have served in the military. And so we talked about military records and it was really nice to see them over the weekend. So I hope that you are doing well. I hope you have a lovely week ahead. I apologize for coming to you a day late, but I should be able to keep on to schedule now until the end of June. And I will say until I see you next week, happy knitting, happy spinning, happy sipping, and I'll see you next time. Bye.